back, guys. This is Automotive Anonymous, and that is the Cadillac CT5-V, baby. That means it's a rear-wheel drive, high horsepower Cadillac sedan. We know there's not many left of these, as a lot of people are leaving the sedan world to going to the boring trucks and SUVs. But what does GM do? They offer you a couple configurations of a high horsepower rear-wheel drive, practical, family, four-seater sedan that kicks butt on the racetrack. And today we're going to review the CT5-V. That means we're going to do a walk around, go through the specs, initial driving impressions, 0 to 60 with the GPS, and then final thoughts to decide, is it potentially worth your time and money, or should you leave it at the lot and consider the competition? Big thanks to Twin Falls Chevy for letting me borrow it for the day. Let's dive right into this review. If you're unfamiliar with this platform, it's actually the Alpha 2 chassis, which just so happens to be the same one that the current 6th generation Camaro is also built on. Hence why this is such a capable performance sedan. Underneath the Cadillac body is a Camaro underneath. The difference is it's a Cadillac, so you can actually see in and out of the windows. It has a functional back seat, and it has a real life trunk that you'll see in just a few minutes. V on the back means it's one of the performance models. V isn't very special in itself, other than it's the letter that GM chose, because they could add a cool graphic behind it, similar to BMW with the M series or Audi with the RS. This mid-size luxury sedan, CT5, competes against things like the Mercedes E450, the BMW M550, of course the Scat Packs and the Hellcats by Dodge in the Charger configuration. And these, since their arrival in 2020, sell about 10 to 15,000 units a year. In the United States, they're actually built in Michigan. But you know what, guys? If you weren't familiar, these are also sold in China, where they're a little bit more popular, selling 40 to 60,000 units every single model year. I'm always a proponent that you should drive multiple brands, multiple models, make sure you're buying what's right for you, make an informed decision. But personally, I really like the V Cadillac sedans. The CTS-V was what was coming out when I was in high school, so of course that was always the pinnacle of sedan in my mind, especially being a GM performance guy. In fact, I reviewed a V2 CTS-V just a couple months ago, and honestly I can tell you guys that this one handles so much better. But in a world where manufacturers and the government are pushing EVs, and there's a lot more trucks and SUVs and sedans that are being produced now, and sports cars, I really think if you can swing it, drive what makes you happy, drive what you're going to enjoy. A platform like this puts a smile on your face. It's honestly pretty absurd that the average new car in the year we're living in right now, post-COVID, is almost $50,000. A base CT5-V like this is actually $51,000 before destination, before any extra options you want to spec it with. If you really want the pinnacle, the CT5-V Blackwing, that one starts at about $94,000. That has a 668 horsepower supercharged 6.2 liter. But this $51,000 Cadillac CT5-V has a 360 horse, 405 torque, twin turbo V6 with a 10-speed automatic. It's really fast. In fact, 0 to 60 is rated in the mid-4s. You'll see pretty soon what it does in our area on GPS. But this is much better than the average car, wouldn't you guys all agree? And it's barely priced more than the average new car, which again is an absurdly high number, but this almost feels like a bargain given knowing those averages. If you like fast sedans, if you like Cadillac V series models, or you like my video, please consider liking my video. Your act of kindness goes a long way. Thank you, guys. One of my favorite perks about this being built off the Alpha 2 Camaro chassis is that it actually weighs less than 3,700 pounds. So it basically weighs the same as a Camaro SS. It has about 50-50 weight distribution if you have the twin turbo V6 like this one is. If you do go with the Blackwing, it's a little bit front heavy, more like a 54% to 46% in the rear. But this one is incredibly well balanced. I've driven a number of electric cars, EVs, other things that have a pretty good weight distribution, even up to the Tesla Model S Plaid with 1,000 horsepower. Crazy acceleration, not nearly as fun as this, and I don't think it handles quite as well. I think the power masks a lot of the weight deficits that it has. This is seriously an incredible performance bargain. 50-50 weight balance is fantastic when you actually drive something like that on the road that isn't extremely heavy, that isn't extremely bloated. You're gonna have a really good time. Specifically, this one is about 16 feet long. The wheelbase is just under 10 feet, so the wheels are set at the corners of the vehicle, meaning it's really well planted and stable on the road. It's just over 6 feet wide, which is pretty wide for a sedan, and then they're under 5 feet tall. The final drive ratio is actually a little bit on the low side at 285, but the 10-speed automatic can compensate for that. That's how you're getting 18 city, 27 highway in a 360 horsepower vehicle. It does have a 17-gallon tank located on the passenger side, so you can road trip for up to about 450 miles between Phillips if you want to. But why would you want to when your car sounds like this? And performs like this. This thing keeps really good traction, especially going around a corner fairly quickly. Anyways, I'm sure you guys are ready to see the interior and then get on with this review. So it does have Michelin Pilot Sport, 245/40, 19 tires and wheels. They look really good. And then you do have a red key, almost like a Hellcat, with a V. Thankfully, it's not completely the basic Chevy key, but it is pretty close. You can unlock, lock, remote start, open the hatch, and alert people that you need some help right there. Otherwise, proximity key features to lock and unlock on the handle. The door panel honestly looks really good. It's mostly black, but there is a nude carbon fiber theme around the handle, and both speakers letting you know what you're listening to. There's actually 15 speakers in this configuration. The armrest width is not huge, but it's soft touch. It feels like it's leather, and it looks really nice. You have a nice, decent handle. You have the trunk release button, a small slanted bottle holder, and a little bit of storage for snacks. I feel like they could have done better and offered you just a little bit more. And then there's another speaker. That one is unnamed. Cadillac on the door sill. I do think they should have put a V like they did on the floor mat. But you have an aluminum pedal set, hood release, electronic parking brake, your lighting stock, ventilation, stitching all throughout the dash, and a really nice 10-way power adjusted seat with some extra thigh support if you need it. Really nice seating. I do wish there was a V stamped in somewhere here. There's not. And then the dual pane moonroof, which looks really good. Sitting inside the V is a really nice place to be. Very human-centric. Everything's easy to get to where you want it to be. A lot of soft touch materials. The leather wheel feels really good. The carbon theme actually is pretty nice, and there's a few other accent pieces throughout. Firing it up with the push button start roars to life. The needles do a very slow dance, and you actually have a lot of infotainment center display options. You can access those through the right side of the wheel, and I'll show you what you have. Information, music, navigation, phone, and settings, but you know what we're gonna stay on? Mostly the V page. That one actually has a lot of cool stuff. A lot more specs than you can typically expect to see on most performance vehicles, which is pretty cool. The horn sounds decent. I feel like it could be a little bit deeper tone, but you can always change that with aftermarket horns if you care to. Nice big paddle shifters for the 10-speed. The wheel just feels really good, and you can actually do a lot to configure the car the way you want it. I'm gonna push the V mode on the button. You can see I currently have left everything pretty aggressive, but when you change those settings, you can honestly feel quite a bit of difference. The touchscreen is actually pretty responsive. Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, all those things, of course. I wouldn't count on the Cadillac maps do a great job. I was trying to use those earlier, and honestly, they weren't connecting very well. Otherwise, I do like how it looks. It looks pretty good. The dash really looks nice, and you have a few speakers just kind of hidden throughout. Ventilation here. A lot of physical buttons. Some of them you toggle up or down depending on what you want. There's some more heated seat and just parking sensor, lane keep assist type of features. You have a wireless charger. You have an extra spot to hide some stuff down here. And then you have your modes right there, so you can go through my mode, tour, sport, track, snow and ice, whatever you want it to be. To get into park, you push park. To get into any of the other gears, you have to go over and then do it that way. But when you are in reverse, the backup camera actually takes up the whole screen. Trajectory lines move. It's a tiny bit grainy, but overall the size of it is really useful. You can see that that's the only camera option you have. Some of the other GM products, you can have multiple cameras if it has the 360-degree view. Otherwise, you're gonna push it back into park. You have audio controls here. It's almost like my Miata with the scrolly dial, how you'd set that up. Actually, I think they borrowed it from that. You have a couple shallow cup holders that you can hide if you want, a slant for your phone, and then the button on the side to open it. You can see there's a few plugins and a 12-volt, and then it's kind of like a felt line. Up top, nothing on the rear view mirror, but then you have all of your sunshades. Something really cool about this one. So watch how that closes. I like that feature. Otherwise, you can tilt the front or you can slide it open. Then you have the home link, the garage door type of settings up there, and you have some LED lights. OnStar, of course. But let's turn it off. Let's hop in the back and see what else it has to offer. I know this isn't picking up on camera as well as in person, but the gray metallic paint really looks good on this vehicle. Otherwise, hopping into the back seat, the door panel has the same design language. You even get the same advertised Bose speaker and nude carbon fiber right there. You have a handle, which is kind of a nice touch in the back, little speaker down here, bottle holder, and some snacks. Nothing on the door sill. You do have the 60-40 split back seat. It's leather, it's comfortable. You have the red seat belt. It's a little bit on the heavy side, but not too bad. Otherwise, you can see the tunnel to get into the trunk. Sitting behind myself, I'm 5'11", sitting behind my driver position. I actually have a few inches of room. I have a mat pocket, so I can be a backseat driver, I can be a chauffeured, look through the sunroof, look through the windows, enjoy the exhaust note, and tell them where I want to go, while having AC, a 12 volt, and a plug-in. Otherwise, my cup holders are right there. I do wish these were rotated 90 degrees and this is a little bit bigger so that you could have an arm that doesn't take up cup holder space. Especially if you're the only one back here and you want 2 cup holders to yourself. Otherwise, let's hop out and go around to the trunk. There's 4 ways to get into the trunk. You can either climb through the tunnel behind the back seats. You can push the button that's on the driver door. You can push the button that's underneath the Cadillac emblem, or I'm gonna be the laziest of all and pop it open that way, and it opens nicely. About 12 cubic feet back here. You only have some tools, an eye bolt hole. You don't have a tire down here. A little bit of a cubby behind the passenger rear wheel. And your battery actually is hidden back there. It helps with the weight distribution to keep this a 50-50 weight balanced car. You can see that the trunk opens up probably about a foot higher than the roof of the vehicle. The back passenger door panel follows the same theme. There's nothing new to be seen on this side that you didn't already see, but this is the 60 split. It's a little bit heavier than the other side. I'm kind of curious why there's not a red 5th passenger seatbelt. You don't want to be the odd one out. Don't sit in the middle seat if you can avoid it. Otherwise, you still have a mat pocket back here so you can have dueling backseat drivers if you so desire. And then if you're riding shotgun, it looks very similar to the driver door panel, minus a few of the extra buttons that you'd have access to. Again, a Cadillac emblem on the door sill, 10-way power adjustment, leather seat, really good. And you know what? You actually get passenger thigh bolstering too. They don't want to forget about you. Also, you have a locking glove box. It's not huge, but it's adequately sized. No plugins or anything. And then carbon fiber theme next to the vent on the dash. It's time to show you guys what I know you've been waiting for. That's the power plant on this Cadillac V-Series sedan. And under the hood, you have the big 3-liter twin-turbo V6. Cadillac is all about advertising. So you have the Cadillac huge on the grille. You have the V huge underneath on the hood. And then there is the power plant. Twin turbo, 3-liter V6. It makes 360 horse at 5,400 RPM and 405 pound-feet of torque at 2,350 RPM. So the torque is down low. That's why it feels pretty quick, pretty punchy at low RPMs, especially around town. But you do have to rev it out for it to keep pulling. You'll notice no battery under here because you saw that in the trunk for the weight distribution. It's pretty busy under the hood. You have the big engine, you have the dual intakes that go to the turbo on each side of the exhaust bank. I'm sure there's a ton of aftermarket for these. And then the reservoirs are easy to find. The oil dipstick, the oil fill, some of the fuses, the PCM, things like that. Overall, it looks really good under here. Cadillac has done a good job designing a V6 to make it actually look pretty good under the hood. And now my favorite part, we're going to time travel and teleport to one of my favorite roads and see how it drives. Initial driving impressions. It sounds good, it feels good, those shifts pop really nicely, and I think I might be in love. Honestly, I wasn't sure how I'd feel about the twin-turbo V6 Cadillac, but that Alpha 2 chassis, what this is riding on, is fantastic. The way this one's configured, it's nearly a 50-50 weight balance, which is phenomenal. If you get the V Blackwing, though, with the big honk and 6.2 supercharged, it has a few more percent on the front, making it a little bit more front-heavy. But the way this one's configured is fantastic. Visibility is really good for this Cadillac. For being a sedan, none of the pillars are really that bad. The side mirrors look sporty from the exterior, as you saw, but they do a good job to show you what's going on around you. Obviously, the rear view mirror, it cuts right through the center of the cabin. The vehicle's about 16 feet long, 3,700 pounds, almost a 10-foot wheelbase, so it's really planted. It's fairly low to the ground, and being just over 6 feet wide, it hugs the road. It's not as rough riding as the ZL1 1LE I reviewed a while back, but this thing is seriously fantastic. It has a little bit more Cadillac squish, and I'll show you in V mode, you can adjust a lot of those features, a lot of the settings, and decide how aggressive you want it. And when you push them through all the electronic aids, you can actually feel things tighten up, like the brake feel, the steering gets a little bit heavier, and it makes you want to throw it around a corner. Have a little bit of fun, kind of like this. We're at altitude, as you're going to see in the 0 to 60. In fact, we're about 1.1 miles above sea level today, equivalent. So those turbos are really doing a good job to compensate and to compress the air. Doesn't feel quite as fast as the V2 CT5-V I reviewed for you guys a few months ago, and it definitely doesn't feel quite as fast as the ZL1 as I mentioned, but it does feel really sharp and comfortable. I haven't had to go sideways, you know, down in any intersection dips or any, you know, have to be too careful around the potholes where these are only 19-inch wheels. Just be smart, be wise in how you maneuver the vehicle, but you really don't have to modify your driving habits very much. It's not like a lowered sports car. It's a Cadillac sedan. You should be able to enjoy it and drive it pretty regularly. If you don't believe me, that's the backpack. Honestly, I think it's just happy to be sitting in here, having the contrasting red seat belts that go all around. Those are a really fun feature that I don't often get to see in cars. I wish more manufacturers would do that. How much can red or other colored thread really be? Just get a deal with Hobby Lobby, make it work. Honestly, this is such a powerful feeling vehicle. For only being about 360 peak horse, the turbos kick in quick, the torque comes on low, and it feels really nice. Those 15 Bose speakers, if you saw those earlier, those sound really nice too. And overall, there's just a lot of creature comforts. I'm having a good time. I'm enjoying myself in here. And I feel like I honestly want to do a long road trip across the country in this car. If you can swing a sedan, if you don't need to have something like an SUV or a truck, you should absolutely consider something like this. And of course, the V Blackwing is the pinnacle of sedans in my mind, where I'm kind of a GM guy performance-wise. But seriously, for 40 grand less, you know, just spend a couple grand on some really good exhaust components, intakes, and a tune by someone reputable. It'll probably make up half the difference in power, and you're gonna be getting good mileage. You're gonna be having a good time. Let's get to our private road though, and do the 0 to 60. 0 to 60 in the V, you can see traction control's off. That's because we push the V button, which really should be B for business. Anyways, all the gauges are set to a pretty aggressive setting. I'll do a light launch. I'm gonna try not to spin though. And then keep in mind, density altitude is over 6,800 feet. So even though this has 2 turbos compressing air, it's compressing less oxygen dense air. It's still on power well over 10%. So give it some credit when you see what the graph shows. Anyways, here we go. Couple shifts later and we made it to 60. True 0 to 60 came in at 5.82 seconds. Not too bad given our elements. Here's that graph and then our final thoughts. Final thoughts of the current generation CT5-V. And should you buy one for 2024 as they're starting to roll off the assembly line? I think you should consider it. Of course, drive the competition, drive some of the other mid-sized luxury sedans, but honestly, I think this one has my heart. I've always liked Cadillacs. I've always liked V-Series. I just am not used to the twin turbo idea yet, but after driving it today, I think you should absolutely give it a chance, give it a try. It changed my mind, and I really like it. For only a few $1,000s more than the average new car, you're getting a lot to work with. You're getting something that you could track on the weekend, have fun driving on Sunday, but also put it in snow mode. Put some better all-season or snow tires on it. Enjoy it year-round. If you can swing a sedan, if you don't need a larger vehicle, this one offers a lot of fun for the dollar. It offers a lot of performance at any dollar value, and it's one that I really like. What do you guys think? Have you driven one? Are you considering it? Have you owned an older V car or a CTS, one of the predecessors? Leave your comments below. Like this video if you want to support the channel, if you want to help share the video and help it to grow. And if you're interested in watching any of my other stuff, you're welcome to subscribe. I always post at least once a week, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.